Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome back to more Wargame Brendryen. Red Dragon 10v10 Tactical. It is another Tuesday and I have for you a very peculiar game today. We're on Wonsen Harbor, the naval variant of Wonsen Harbor, so there's all opportunities for bringing in naval units and, well, that tends to lead to a bit of a grind at times. Because somebody will park a Congo or something like that all the way in the back, considering that they might lose the game. And that's going to make it potentially, depending on the income and how well your team has done, very difficult to dislodge that unit. The game was sent in by the Wizard ZA. It is a really, really weird game. But then again, that's what I quite like about these odd 10v10 tacticals. Now, let's proceed with the deployment. As you can see, I'm going to be covering it in neutral. There is probably a lot more going on that I can possibly cover at any given time. And you'll just have to bear with me as I'm not able to spot and thus cover everything. Important to note, however, is this cluster of helicopters. We have Th3s, we have P10, we have Blackhawks, we have Lahatut Mepats. There are all sorts of dangerous Israeli helicopters taking to the skies. And not just Israeli, we also got a couple of South Korean AH-1Ts. And up in front is an F5A, which seems to be trying to drop napalm. Now at this point, a MiG-31M has been sent to deal with whatever aircraft gets sent forward. And that means that Red 4 is now aware of this helicopter rush. So now they need to try and fix that. How are you going to stop something like that? Well, not with the anti-air that you have here, because it's just one Scrajet and it's a lot of BTRDs and BTR-70s and 80s. So that's a bit concerning. And we already have Mr. Noob over here requesting urgent assistance. An SU-27PU gets spawned in, but considering the onslaught of helicopters, especially those armed with a Stinger and a couple of, well, Skyhawks that are basically distracting the PU, it's not really a good way to deal with this offensive. I believe that the Tunguska has already been killed. Yeah, there's the Tunguska, that one is down, meaning that Blue 4 can basically just walk in, rather fly in. There is a CV from Red, it is on the move as quickly as can be, but Blue has already dropped off their CV. Red has really very few opportunities. They have to either hold it and counter it, or they have to make sure that they get the CV out and save it for a later date. But that second thing is not quite going to happen. And apparently, some of the Blue 4 players had some units sent in before they temporarily lost control, meaning that the South Africans are going to arrive in force with a couple of Roykats. Some K200s are going to provide the infantry support, and a couple of 105s are going to do the punching that the 76s can't do. In the meanwhile, the P10 and the Th3 are continuing on their merry killing spree. Currently only standing in their way is one Strela 10M, but of course, it's going to be a bit iffy to deal with those in time. The P10 dies thanks to the Ural, aided by the already demised Strela 10M. The Th3 tries to deal with some of these units and does get the drop on some of them, because at short range that Vulcan is deadly. Red desperately spawns in more and more and more anti-air. And at the moment there's only one CV, and this one is not in concealment. The other CV, or whatever it was over here, has been killed off, and that means that Blue is down to 1. So what has Red been up to? Well, Red 4 has not been idle. They've been sending their infantry forward. They have a nice flank going on here with Formosa, Grenzer, a lot of transports, and a command infantry unit, which is currently counteracting Michael Whitman's command unit. In the middle, it is currently the full-on grind that you can expect. We get Spatsnaz, Commander Marines, Gurkhas, Royal Marines, every fairly elite unit fighting it out and hoping that they can force a breakthrough here. And considering how many forces each side has, I think Red has the drop. Especially considering that there are basically over 100 Spatsnaz operators with that RPO Reese, whatever, the napalm launcher. And they can very quickly make nice cocktails out of the Commander Marines. So, in the meanwhile, Blue 4 has killed Bravo's spawn. So Red 4 is fresh out of spawns. This is usually the part where a lot of people start surrendering. But all is not lost, because Red 4 still has some command units left, and they might be able to break through here. Over on the left, you got that Roycat rush coming in, the 76s as well as the 105s. There is even a 35, so that's the anti-air variant. Not that Blue 4 is likely to encounter any planes, but you never know. And Red is trying to hold off against, well, basically whatever Blue spawns in. Note this weird interaction here. We got Spatsnaz, Gru, and Morskaya Pekota versus Maglan. The front lines here are very fluid at the moment. Nobody really knows what's going on and where it's happening. A couple of rocket artillery units are trying to suppress all the Blue 4 units. They seem to be doing a good job. Blue 4's units are starting to die, as well as getting panicked if they do not die. And this means that the Spatsnaz have a pretty easy time clearing up the entirety of that town. In the meanwhile, we got some Bretska Pesh over there. Commandosi are moving forward and are making good movement towards the command infantry there. There's another command infantry over there, so that's another easy roadkill. Now, what else is happening? A couple of CVs are moving about. Take note of the CVs here and here. The Scott 2 and the OT-64C. Because these are both going to be fairly important. The Roykats are trying to kill whatever they can find, and that includes one of the artillery units. The other two have been dislodged from the formation and are moving away. I think it might be because this one had a technical failure, and because of that would have slowed the entire formation down. So now we have Roykats hunting down artillery, but it's short-range conflicts. It's very difficult to spot, so it's very difficult to bring anything in. The command infantry almost made it back into Bravo, which, as you can see, is not very heavily defended by Blue. Yes, there's an AH-1T, which is currently was taking some fire from, I think, the AK. Sorry, the VZ-58 of the Concourse. But it survived, and it can now actually use the captured FOBs to get back into combat shape. Red 4 is not only making strides here, where they've cleaned up the command vehicle, but also here, as an M84AN encroaches on the base, and even a couple of tabs have made it into Gulf. So, not only Red 4 spawn has been threatened and overrun, but Blue 4 is kind of risking happening the same. There are a couple of units coming in as quickly as possible to help. Rattle 90 FSV, we get a Roycat and a Warrior. Some infantry holding the town, but they're only territorials. The M84AN, however, should have no problem chewing through all these units very easily, and spot them at the same time. At this point, Red 4's command unit is still slowly but steadily making strides towards their spawn. The Roykats are still trying to find stuff in the forests, and I think they were hoping to find a command unit or two, but so far have found nothing. And the artillery units that they're trying to chase down are still not very successful. Or rather, the South Africans are not very successful at finding the artillery units, which are also being kept on the move. These things do 90 kph off-road, which in a forest is very handy. In the middle, Blue 4 has lost everything. Yes, there are some Shayatet remaining, but against this many Spatsnaz, it's going to be very hard to hold your own. Meaning that even the Achsarit, which was there to hold command of Echo, is being pushed out. Now, what I want to draw your attention to is how many people have not quit. Usually, when somebody's spawn gets overrun, by the way, it has been recaptured. Normally, when somebody's spawn gets overrun, people start quitting en masse. And that usually means that the team just starts to snowball into a defeat. But that has not happened here. I think we've seen one guy leave, Mr. Noob, but beyond that, I don't think we've seen anybody just disengage from the conflict altogether. Now at this point, the AH-1T is trying to hunt down the command infantry unit. Red is able to spawn in some stuff, but is not able to hold on to the sector for very long. And the units that are coming in here do not contain a command unit. So unfortunately, it's not going to be possible for them to spawn anything else in, and the PU only has one short-range missile left, 6 long ranges, but of course at some point it will run out of fuel and it will have to be forced to evac the area. Not to worry though, as Red 4 is making some really serious progress into Blue 4 spawn. A couple of Formosa are going to duke it out against the Commander Marines. Commander Marines are elite, and so are Formosa. These guys, however, have a grenade launcher. And unfortunately, they're not really able to use it against the firepower that's being brought to bear against them by the Commander Marine and the VAB. LR-160 firing off a cluster salvo. I'm not exactly sure why. Maybe to scare off the Mini-4AN. Successfully, temporarily, but now it's empty. And seeing that they have a fob there and there, which are pretty much getting overrun, it's not likely that that's going to be another problem. So, Red 4 has lost their spawn. Blue 4 still has the Alpha spawn, as well as the Foxtrot spawn, but they do not have access to their air tab. Their aircraft have been shut down for the time being, as Red 4 is countering them with a command infantry unit there. Yes, there are still quite some units from Red pouring into the sector, and Blue is starting to have trouble, I think, keeping their stuff in one piece, despite still having the access to a fob. Now, interestingly, when it comes to points, despite Blue 4's initial victory over here, they have not scored that many kills. 2375 versus 3790. And because of that, it means that Red, in a way, has more map control, or the potential for more map control, as more Blue 4 units have died. Red also has the +4 over here. So when it comes to income, they have points, they just don't have the ability to spend them. Blue has a +1 here and a +1 there. And yes, they can spend it, but they don't get that much. So it's kind of balancing each other out. Over here we get a couple of units which are kind of getting overrun as the BTRDs are just making their way pretty much past them. Legionnaires trying to get the Erics to shoot, but unfortunately not able to get the drop on the BTRD. And as I mentioned, with so few units left on the map, the BTRDs are almost on top of the command infantry unit. There is one unit of Nor force that might be able to put a stop to it, but that's really all. At this point, Red has successfully pushed Blue out of Blue's spawn. So Red can once again bring in the Su-27PU. There's even an Orao over there. And they can start spawning in units again. So now they have the income from Golf and the one from Charlie. And because of that, they might actually be able to claw their way back. A couple of Roycats, however, are pushing on this command infantry unit. And these guys have nothing to do against two Roycats. The Roycats are not particularly well armored, but armored enough so that the small arms fire is not going to be a problem. And that means that Red has been deprived of a bit more income. Blue is shuffling a command vehicle over from Alpha to here to allow them to get their air spawn back in, as well as get a lot more income. There's a +3 there. And Red just continues to push here. The Nor Force have expended their ammunition, but the PTRD has not died. It's... where is it, actually? Have you parked it in a shed or something? Oh, there it is. Jeez, that thing's well camouflaged. Look at that. There's the BTRD. The BTRD does seem to come under some friendly fire, or not so friendly fire, as a Super Gleb drops a couple of bombs right on top of the BTRD. Which, however, proves to be a bit more fire resistant than the Nor Force. If they had dropped that a little bit more to the left, the Hapak would have been forced to move, though they would still have command thanks to the HQ section. Now, since Blue has command back, they were able to spawn in a Rafale, but the Su-27PU claimed the kill on that, and that means that Blue is still seemingly not very well in control of the air. Let's see, do they even have any kind of anti-air? Yeah, they got a unit of Stinger over there. I think that's it. Oh, there's another Stinger there. That's the extent of their anti-air. So Blue 4 does not really have the ability to counter Red's air. Nor do they really have a lot of options when 34 make that 74 Spetsnaz operators come running your way. This has been a complete reshuffling of the base. Sorry, of the map. Because Red started here, and this is now complete Blue. And, hold on. Oh, somebody was moving the CV around. Blue started here, and that is almost completely compromised. Whereas Blue's front line was here, and that is now entirely Red. So it has been a complete switcheroo in that sense. And seemingly, Blue is getting defeated. Despite that beautiful early helicopter offensive over there, that you could very well describe as a helo rush, it seems that they're not really reaping the benefits from that. There is one Brechka group over there that might find the command infantry in it, but there is still a bit in the way, including an M51 Sherman that seemingly does not know how to spot anything. Yeah, these guys were able to shoot it with the M60A and kill it off. But they're not going to be able to get to the command because there is a warrior and some infantry in the way. Roykat is being scrambled to try and support. It's a very nice position over there. Only 2 HE though. It's not that deadly against infantry, but it will try and suppress them, making their life a lot more difficult. Note how HS 20129 is still in control of a lot of these Spetsnaz forces. He has a quad stack there. Mr. Noob, who left, so that's Rainstorms now, I think, has a quad stack there and here. And with all that firepower, they can very easily roll up any infantry unit. They tried to do a bombing run here on the command infantry unit, but failed. So the Super Galeb and the PU are once again trying to find stuff to kill, and the PU does find something. The Führungsgruppe seems to be on the receiving end of a flying barbecue, but somehow manages not to get actually hit. They're not even panicked with all this fire happening around them. Let's see, what could blue do? I'd say defend and just let red crash into it and hope that they get some points, but red still has a lot of infantry. And if blue just pushes solo, which is something that you see happening quite a lot in these 10v10s if there's not proper communication going on. If blue does not coordinate, then everybody dies alone. People make one-man pushes or one-vehicle pushes, and they just lose a lot of stuff. I think we're going to see a collapse of blue for now. Enigmar has surrendered, V. Turkin has surrendered, Shaun surrendered. And look at this guy. Klaus von Stau. We're going to see what the complete name is after the battle, or just here. Von Stauffenberg. 850 points, and Michael over there, Michael Whitman, has 590, being by far the most contributing members to Blue 4. When it comes to red, it's a bit more even. HS 20129 with 743, Solomon with 948. But this team seemed to work a little bit better together. The kills are more evened out, so it's not a complete 80-20. Spetsnaz pushing forward. There was one Commando Para operator still holding that line. But 27 more Spetsnaz means that they really don't have any way to defend against that. Casper K-Car relocating the CV. The CV over here has been killed as I was talking over something else. And they're just trying to get the K-Car back into Bravo so that they can get more units there. The Spetsnaz operators are trying to kill infantry, but are not only running into infantry, but also a Merkava 1, and more importantly, potentially the Warrior. The Warrior, capable with its autocannon suppress. It's not a very good autocannon, the Roarden, but it is enough to make the Spetsnaz life a bit more difficult and make them wait for something else that can kill the Warrior, like LSTR-40. At this point, there is one TACOM left, and I think that is about it for blue. They still got all the way over down there the LAR 160, but these guys are going to fight to the death. And a quick death they shall have, as an airstrike from the Arau kills off the last Blue 4 command unit. So, while that initial attack with the helicopters was great, the follow-through was a bit less so. Because Red's units just kept pushing forward, and what I really appreciate, Red did not surrender en masse when their CV zone had been lost. Even without a spawn, you can continue to fight. When it comes to kill death, we got Yukio on red, who did really well. Simonito did very nicely, 941 versus 210. HS did very nice, I think, with the Spetsnaz. Over here, Solomon with 948, 405. And the Wizard, who sent it in, 771 versus 510. Blue, we got Whitman making positive. And keep in mind that Blue's numbers, since they were losing and people started leaving, are a bit skewed. Because I think Evergiven did not leave, and that means that he inherited units and then started losing them. So he wasn't as cost effective as or at least he might have been more cost effective than what you can currently see. As for the rest, this one positive, and the rest not so much. Still, very interesting game. It's these 10v10 tacticals where you have shit like this happening. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have something similar that happened to you in your game, by all means, let me know down below in the comment section and send in your replay through the link down in the description. Thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon for more of this craziness.